Hello everyone, my name is Gina from Her Cosmic Crown and I am a Tropical Vedic Astrologer, and today we are talking about a very important topic that can be very useful for you as an astrologer, as a student of astrology, or just someone who wants to know more about their chart. And one thing that is super important is to learn about planetary maturation periods, because we can look at our chart and understand more about what has happened or what will happen based on when a planet matures. So I'll give you a quick example. When I was 24 years old, I went through a very tough heartbreak. And I was in a relationship with someone who I really liked. I really wanted to marry them, but he ended up breaking up with me. And that was extremely heartbreaking. And I didn't know why he broke up with me, but it really broke my heart because I really liked this guy. And I'm glad we're not married because I'm married now. But at that time, you know, it broke my heart so much. And I couldn't even think for like a month. I was just kind of on autopilot, and I remember driving one day and I blacked out and I rear-ended someone. That's how bad it was. Like, I was just in a different realm. And Venus has to do with relationships, and Venus matures at 25. A planet starts its maturation process up to a year before it actually matures. There are a lot of things that we're learning during that 1 year maturation period. And so that's just one example. And I'll be going through all of the planets today because we can start to make more sense of what's going on. This is just a brief overview. All of the visible planets, along with Rahu, which is the north node of the moon, and Ketu, which is the south node of the moon, they all have maturation ages. When a planet matures, we are able to use that planet to the highest possible degree that we can based on our astrological chart. So just because for instance, Jupiter matures at 16, not everyone's Jupiter looks the same. Some people have extremely strong Jupiters and some people don't have extremely strong Jupiters. So even though two people at 16, they can be going through their Jupiter maturation phase, it's gonna look different for both of them, depending on their chart, if that makes sense. But they both are able to use that planet to the highest degree that they can, and they're able to navigate with that planet to the best of their ability. We want to analyze the planet's dignity. So what is the dignity of that planet? We also want to look at what's called Lagicharya Veshtas, which are the planetary relationships. Okay, so is that planet in question aspecting or conjunct a friendly planet or a harmful planet or a neutral planet? That's going to affect that planet a lot. So we want to look at the chart overall. We want to look at the Shadbala of the planet, the strength of the planet, right? So there's so much we want to look at, but this is just an overview, and you can always book a reading with me if you want to know more about your specific charts. Let's start with Jupiter. Jupiter matures at the age of 16. So it's the very first planet that matures. Jupiter has to do with children, husbands, our wisdom, our spirituality. It has to do with philosophy, morality, making good judgment calls. Biologically speaking, puberty ends between the ages of 15 and 17 for a girl. This is really interesting because her reproductive organs are mature. She's able to have a child, and she can have a child before then, but her body is really ready to have a child between the ages of 15 and 17. If a person has a strong Jupiter in their chart, they can, if they have children, You know, generally there won't be major issues with the child. You also want to look at the 5th house as well. But in terms of Jupiter, you have that. And then a person can have deep spiritual and philosophical understanding by the age of 16. So even though Mercury hasn't yet matured at the age of 16, that doesn't mature until our 20s. But by 16, a person can have profound spiritual realizations and a lot of wisdom at this time. However, if a person has an afflicted Jupiter, during this time they can have issues with children, and maybe not just their children, but children in general. Maybe if they're working with children, they can get some philosophical or spiritual advice that doesn't resonate with them, or that puts them in a situation that is not good. The sun matures at the age of 21. The sun has to do with how we shine in life. It can represent our career path or the actions we take in this life. And a person with a strong sun around the age of 21, so between 20 and 22, because we want to look a year after a planet matures as well. That's also a significant time period. During this time, a person's learning to be responsible, dutiful, take care of their worldly responsibilities. You know, they're able to envision what they want for their life and their path, as long as the sun isn't afflicted. At this time, they can see a lot of good success, like especially if they have a really strong sun. They can realize what they want to do with their life and become successful. They can get discovered in terms of their career, or if they're into acting, get discovered at that age. However, if their sun is afflicted, they can face some trouble with some kind of authority figure. And a lot of times that authority figure can be the father, because the sun represents the father, but it can be any authority figure. So there can be difficulties with that person. There can be some difficulties when it comes to the career as well. Some challenges, some setbacks, some delays. This can manifest in so many ways. For other people, it can just be like they're so confused about what they want to do, and they end up on like a path that doesn't suit them in terms of their career and their career goals and who they innately are. And maturing at the age of 24, we have the moon. The moon has to do with our feelings, how we feel about ourselves, our self-image. Between the ages of 23 and 24, we're understanding like, what is it that makes me happy, right? What is it that is emotionally fulfilling for me? And at this time, a person with a strong moon, and it's very rare for a person to have an afflicted moon. So most people during this time are able to say, hey, you know, I don't really like this thing. Let me go over here because I think I like this better and this makes me feel good. So a person is able to be flexible and change the course of their life if they need to, or just change a little detail in their life so that they can find happiness and things like that. So if a person has an afflicted moon, they may find themselves depressed. There can be something depressing because maybe they can't envision another possibility for their life. They can feel stuck somehow, and they're not really being flexible, where they're getting out of a situation that isn't feeling too good for them. So a person can be dealing with some emotional difficulties during the ages of 23 and 24, and possibly even 25. And there's only a 1 year period, and there's an overlap between the moon's maturation and Venus's maturation. So the moon, like I said, matures at 24, and then right after that at age 25 we have Venus that matures, and a person's developing their ability to decide what lifestyle choices are good for them and which ones are not, because Venus is the appraiser. It appraises the worth of something. So a person with a strong Venus is able to say, hey, I want to be in this kind of relationship. I want this kind of car. I want to take vacations at this place. You know, so Venus is about receiving the good things in life. Venus in our charts help life to be smoother, hopefully, if we have a good Venus. And it's a reflection of our self-worth as well. So if we feel worthy of the good things, we can decide to go towards those things that will benefit us. With an afflicted Venus, we may make lifestyle choices that aren't beneficial for us, that can cause some pain, delays, and things like that. So in my introduction, I mentioned that I went through a really bad breakup and I didn't make the right choices to begin with. I didn't understand that when we got together in the first place, that this person probably wasn't feeling me as much as I was feeling them. But that's because my Venus wasn't developed when we first got into a relationship. So I was learning some difficult lessons around Venus with that relationship. I was 24 when this happened, and my moon was maturing, and you know, a lot of emotions were coming up, and the moon represents our perception. So I feel like my perception wasn't super solid and grounded. And so, you know, I was blacking out and not grounded at all. But yeah, these during 24 and 25, we have two critical planets maturing around the same time. Venus doesn't just represent relationships, but a person may make a choice to work and not take any breaks, and they can find themselves getting ill because they are just working too hard. So Venus is all about making good choices. Mars matures at the age of 28, and it has to do with the way we handle life's problems. Mars also has to do with something that we fight for, something that we put our focus on. If we choose to fight for something, or do we use restraint? Do we have enough inner strength to restrain from cussing someone out, right? For getting our order wrong. So Mars is developing at between 27 and 28, and you know, even 29, we are still kind of finishing up with the maturation of Mars. But for some people, they might find themselves getting in an argument, getting in a fight. I remember having a roommate at this time, and we would butt heads, and I was constantly fighting with her, and I'm like, what is going on? I'm constantly fighting with this woman. But my Mars was maturing, and I was learning how to use restraint and not to cuss her out and not be angry at her, and to just realize, hey, this battle is not worth fighting, you know, and I'm only gonna be with her for another year. Let me just wait it out. And that's what I did. So Mars can, a lot of times when it's maturing, we can find ourselves in situations that there's a problem that needs to be solved, an obstacle. We might find ourselves in arguments, fighting with others, and we're learning to really strengthen that Mars for that last period, so we can learn the lessons we need to with that Mars. And this goes for the other planets, that we can use that to the highest ability for the rest of our lives. If a Mars is good, is nice in a person's chart, is strong, we'll see a person overcoming battles, overcoming fights and difficulties. They're able to problem solve, which is awesome. However, if it's afflicted, a person might succumb to a fight. They might not be able to solve a problem. It's interesting because you've heard of the 27 Club, right? Where a lot of celebrities, musicians, a lot of musicians especially, they die around the age of 27. And it would be interesting to see if there's a astrological connection between these people dying and their Mars and what happened. So, you know, we do see quite a few deaths around this time, because Mars has to do with fighting and our body fighting, right? So our body fighting off diseases too, and being able to attack what it needs to attack to keep us alive. So Mars is also a health indicator as well. We want a strong Mars. So some people, for one reason or another, aren't able to fight or solve a problem to where they're able to overcome it. And on a very severe note, that can look like someone passing away. But for the average person, it just could be some very difficult thing that they have to face, and they might have trouble with that thing. And it's not until the age of 32 that Mercury matures. And this surprised me, because I thought that Mercury would mature a lot sooner, you know, maybe at 20, because Mercury is the planet of our communication. It's our thinking, our ability to learn. And we graduate from high school at 18, and for people who go to college right after high school, they graduate, you know, maybe at 22, 23 or something like that. But it's not until we're 32 that our Mercury matures. And I just think that's wild, because we still have a lot more learning to do, and we can develop our skills more, our communication skills. So we're still developing that all the way until our 30s. So, but another thing that Mercury has to do with, it's about testing things and seeing what works. And it's the ability to be curious and to investigate and to ask questions. Sometimes we don't know if, say for instance, living in another country will be a better fit for us or not. So we try it out, you know, we go and move somewhere else. And so that's just being curious, you know, like, what is it like somewhere else? But some people aren't curious. Some people don't want to investigate more. They don't want to learn more. And with an afflicted Mercury, they can become stagnant with their thinking. And maybe the way they communicate, there can be some insecurities in the way they can communicate or in the way they learn. But if it is strong in a person's chart, a person is able to be curious. They are able to develop their skills, including their language skills, communication skills, and learn to laugh, because Mercury is a very friendly planet, and it has to do with seeing the lightness in the world, the humor in the world, the interesting things in the world. Like, that is so funny. That random thing right there, that's funny, you know? And it's able to recognize the different moving parts in this world, and these things make it interesting, right? And not to be scared of something that's different, but to embrace it, and to learn more about it. After Mercury, we have Saturn that matures at the age of 36. What I find interesting about this is that we have our Saturn return between the ages of 28 and 29. I did a video on that. Check it out if you haven't already. But our Saturn return teaches us to be responsible. But we still have a ways to go before we can use our Saturn to the maximum potential. So when Saturn matures at the age of 36, this exemplifies a period in which we found ways to survive in this difficult world. So Saturn is a planet that has to do with our survival skills, being able to survive, being able to persevere, endure something very difficult. And during this time, we're able to take care of our responsibilities. A lot of times around the age of 35 and 36, when Saturn is maturing, we are learning to detach from the things we don't have control over. We're having to face something that we need to detach from and to accept it. Saturn has to do with generally problems that we can't fix, or problems that we can't fix immediately at least. Mars is the planet that we can fix right here, right now. Oh, there's a leak. Let me call someone to fix it if I can't fix it. Saturn is those things, those really difficult things in life that we can't really change. If someone dear in our lives passes away, what we can do is find ways to cope with that loss, but it's not like we can fix that issue. We can't fix that. We can't make that person come back to life. So Saturn deals with those really difficult, painful things. And when Saturn matures, depending on how Saturn looks in our chart, we might have to deal with something or face something that we are kind of forced to accept, let go of, endure some kind of delay as well. So if a person has an afflicted Saturn, they can be holding on to something that they have trouble letting go of. They can be ruminating on the past, and they can find it, very difficult to endure pain and to carry lots of burdens or responsibilities. Rahu matures at the age of 42. During this time, a person is realizing what they did the first half of their life, because this is around the midlife crisis time. I would say all of the 40s, because Ketu also matures in the 40s, but late 40s. So a person can be realizing like the first half of their life, they might have been doing things a certain way. They might have been comfortable doing something, but now it's time to venture into new territory, to do something new, to do something that they feel that they have to do, because wherever Ketu is, that's no longer working for them. So they're having to go into this new uncharted area, and it can be scary for some people. It's not meant to be scary. It's meant for us to have a lot of growth. A lot of spiritual growth can happen during this period of time. And it's not meant to punish us, but it can seem like it for some people. We want to look at Saturn in a person's chart. We want to look at the ruler of Rahu in a person's chart and study how those planets are doing. And if a person has, if those planets are auspicious in a person's chart, they can find new life, something new that they're doing, that they're working on, exploring something new, and then they can get a new perspective on how they were doing things in the first half of their life, and have kind of this awakening. But if those planets are afflicted, a person can feel stuck and confused and not know how to get out of that rut. And at the age of 48, Ketu matures. And it's during this time a person potentially has deep personal and spiritual realizations. They accept what is, they accept themselves for who they are, and they have deep understanding, and they're able to have peace with what has happened in the past, and they don't resent it, and they realize, like, even though things weren't perfect, it played out the way it was supposed to play out. Okay, because they went to Rahu, they saw things from a different perspective, and they're like, oh, okay, this is how it was supposed to be though. This is how my life was supposed to play out. And ideally, we want to be able to not get stuck in the Rahu house or the Ketu house. Not everyone is meant to do that. Some people are meant to be more in the Rahu area. Some are more in the Ketu area. That's a whole different conversation. But for Ketu, we want to analyze Mars, and we want to analyze the ruler of Ketu and see how they're doing. If those are strong in a person's chart, then they are able to kind of let go, accept things. Ketu is the planet of liberation. They can be liberated somehow. They can be free. They can have a lot of spiritual growth, and they can become a master in their life. If Ketu's Lord is afflicted and if Mars is afflicted, a person may hold a lot of grudges. They can be stuck in their egocentric ideas of what things should be, how things should have been, but they're not like that. They can become bitter and just ruminate on how unfair life has been for them. So there's so much more on this topic, but this is an introduction on the maturation of the planets and how important they are and how interesting it is to learn about how the planets mature. So let me know if you have any questions, and yeah. And if you feel comfortable enough, please let me know if you have any anecdotes, any stories of any of the planetary maturation periods for you, and let me know how that went for you or how it's going. Maybe you're in it right now. Anyway, I will see you in the next video. Take care. Bye.